The very latest on your Minnesota Vikings and a preview of Vikings Packers, some bold predictions. We're having a little fun here on the Locked On Vikings podcast.
Ooh-wee! You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Locked On Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, your pal, and the kid you copied off in math class. My name is Luke Braun. You can find me on Twitter at Luke Braun NFL. Show is on Twitter at Locked On Vikings. Thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. This is the last show that we're going to have before they play real football. My goodness. This is the last time I get to talk to you. The next time I do that, the next time I'm like, welcome to the show, I'm the kid you copied off in math class, there will have been a 2022 football game. In fact, I just watched the Thursday night game, and that game happens to be against our hated rival, the Green Bay Packers. If you want a little bit of insider stuff on the Packers, listen to yesterday's episode, Crossover Thursday with Peter Bukowski. He gave us a bunch of interesting kind of insight on the Zadarius Smith thing. I wasn't really familiar with it outside of the Go Long article that came out that was like this tell-all about his frustrations with the Packers and why this is kind of a revenge game for him. It just like doesn't feel like our fight. Like I tweeted, I feel like a step parent and like a kid is fighting with their parent, and you're just kind of like, here is you know what side you're taking when you're taking your spouse's side, but like this is like clearly not your fight, and you're just like kind of here to be supportive. Go do your thing though, Zadarius. Get as many sacks as you want. I don't mind being used. So it's Packer week, and that is gonna mean like we should probably get to know what the Packers are dealing with right now. And kind of what we're getting. So I'm going to try to preview this game best I can. We'll get into some score predictions and stuff. I had my score prediction yesterday. It was like 31-20, but we'll talk about like betting lines and all that stuff. Because of course, betonline.net has some really fun lines and props and everything that we can do. So let's do a little bit of that. So we'll do a little grambling. We'll do a little bit of bold predictions. But first, let me just talk about like news and injury reports and stuff, and then just like some general thoughts on this game. So first things first, injury report. Jonathan Bullard still limited with that bicep injury. Only one addition, and that is Lewis Cine limited with a knee injury. Apparently, he's had like wraps on it and ice on it. So something's going on with that knee. There's swelling if there's ice, right? I guess that would be what ice is for. But the way that usually plays out, here's the situation I'm worried about. There's like two outcomes here. One outcome is there's a minor knee thing, and they're just kind of keeping him on ice, literally. Until it's okay and he'll be limited. The other thing is, it was just a tiny little bruise or something like that. It'll be gone tomorrow. He'll be back to full. That's, I don't think, a very likely scenario. And then the other scenario that I'm like actually worried about is he suffered an actual problem, or he aggravated another problem. And if he is DNP in Friday's injury report, which you might actually have and know about by the time you listen to this, if he's DNP on Friday, I will be concerned about him missing significant time. So what does that mean? If Lewis Cine misses significant time, he's not a starter, right? Because Cameron Bynum's had a great camp. He earned that starting job fair and square. So if Lewis Cine goes down, it's, you're not bringing in a backup. They have the depth to handle that. It will mean that the big nickel, the 3 safety nickel that I guess Peter mentioned it in the Crossover Thursday, and I didn't even clock it until like after. I was like, wait, did he just say 3 safety is like a big Mike Pettin thing? Oh, okay, well, that tracks. So I guess that's the Mike Pettin contribution to the Fangio-style defense Ed Donatel is running. So I guess maybe we're running some kind of hybrid off the dome. I don't think Pettin comes off the same tree as like a Fangio, so he wouldn't have the same scheme. So maybe it's more hybrid or something like that. Interesting idea. But point is, those personnel packages change when you don't have the personnel that justify them anymore, right? Like if CJ Ham gets hurt, I don't think they run lead plays anymore. They just stop using 21. And I think that's why they don't have a backup fullback anywhere in the building. The Vikings were committed to using a fullback, and whether it was CJ Ham or someone else, since Adrian Peterson, I mean, they have been committed. And before Adrian Peterson, everyone had a fullback. So pretty much always they've been committed to having a fullback on the roster. And this seems like a world where they're not committed to it. They are just justified in doing it because CJ Ham is there. And hey, he's a good fullback. We're going to use him. But if CJ Ham gets hurt, we just aren't going to use a fullback. We're not going to go bring in a Jake Vargas. That seems to be the plan here. And I would imagine a similar approach happens if Lewis Cine can't go. You're not going to say, all right, third safety time, it's Josh Metellus. Josh Metellus becomes the backup and the guy that comes in if another safety gets hurt. But otherwise, you're just going to run probably more standard nickel stuff, and you run with the guys that you have instead of trying to fit backups into the guys that you had. I guess that's the way to put it. So that's that situation. I'm keenly watching if he plays on Friday. If he's limited, it means it's just a minor thing. If he's full, it means it was a minor thing. It was just a blip, no worries. And if he is a DNP, I'm actually concerned. Also, Alexander Madison was not present at practice. Personal thing, not a long-term thing. Nothing to worry about there, but just worth mentioning real quick. So this game against the Packers, I guess the way I see it going down has just been like, I just can't get out of my head that young players like Cam Dantzler, Cameron Bynum, new players to the Vikings like Jordan Hicks and Harrison Phillips, and old players learning new tricks. Harrison Smith, Eric Kendricks, Danielle Hunter, everybody. Danielle Hunter is going to cover more than he ever has. Eric Kendricks is going to be the one linebacker in a penny front, which is 5-1, 5 up, and then one in the back. And you call it 3-3-2 if you really want to be pedantic about who you call linebackers. Harrison Smith is going to be doing different things than he's used to. Everybody's going to be doing different stuff than they're used to. And your pilot run, your very first maiden voyage is against Aaron Rodgers. Just feels like a recipe for disaster. That is why I picked against them. A lot of people, especially in the YouTube comments, got upset. I got like tweets. People were like, how dare you? What? Pick the favored team? Come on. And this is what you get from me, okay? This is what you get out of Locked On Vikings. If you want blustery rah-rah, or if you want blustery negativity, you can find those things in other shows. All right, there is a show for you if you just want fan energy. But for me, I'm going to call them as I see them. And the goal for me on this show is to enhance your experience of watching the Vikings, not to be the one with the most right takes. There's a lot of people competing over that ground, and it's a game of King of the Hill that I don't really care about. So I'm going to keep calling them as I see them. Spoiler alert, I'm probably not going to pick the Vikings to beat the Eagles either in Philadelphia with as trendy as that Eagles team is. We'll see if week 1 changes my mind at all. It could. But it's if you're looking for just like rah-rah bluster, flip on K-Fan. You're not going to find it here. You've come to the wrong place. But if you want to learn football, if you want to enhance your experience of the Vikings, and if you want a little bit of objectivity, then you've come to the right place. That's what you get with Locked On Vikings. What you also get with Locked On Vikings is talk about Grambling. And that is what we're going to do next. We're going to talk about some Grambling lines, courtesy of Bet Online. But first, we are going to talk about hiring. It's hiring season. The fall is like when a lot of people are looking for jobs. You got a lot of people that just graduated or graduated in the summer. I was a summer graduate, so I was looking in the fall when I first came out of college. Whatever your job is, though, whether you're looking for a graduate or someone with 20 years of experience, create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs. They have the world's largest professional network, over 810 million people, nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn every single week. And LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day. Before we get into the Grambling here, I would like to shout out the History Doc. I've been plugging it on here for weeks now. It's on my Patreon. If you haven't checked it out, I would love it if you did. Today, if you are a patron, you can watch the final one. and the final one is done. So I'm actually done with this project now, finally. And it's the thing that has dominated my life for the better part of this entire calendar year. And I just want to stretch out a huge thank you to everybody who has supported me in that. I have put a lot of emotional weight, a lot of emotional effort, like beyond just the work ethic and the elbow grease that it took to get this giant thing, almost 7 hours long in total. It's a it's a TV series, basically. 4 of the 7 episodes are over an hour long. And everybody who supported me in that, I just cannot thank you all enough. And if you haven't checked it out yet, I would love it if you did. Anyways, let's talk about some Grambles. So BetOnline has games, and this is something we are going to do every single Friday. It is something that I have been meaning to do is a Gramblin segment. And you know what? We're going to name it. It's going to be called You Betcha. Yep, we're doing that. You Betcha. It's the Friday segment, the Friday You Betcha segment where we bet them because that's what they say. We say, and that's what Minnesotans say. I'm just going to run down some prop bets and talk about the ones that I like and don't like. There's some season stuff that we could talk about too, like Daniil Hunter being 40-1 to be Defensive Player of the Year. If you're a Grambling sharp, you know, by the way, all of these lines courtesy of betonline.ag. More on them in a second. But if you're a sharp, you know that those like 40-1, those real long odds things are kind of a bit of a trap. They're a bit of a red herring. Really, the season-long bet that I think is the best one is Vikings plus 110 to finish second in the NFC North. It feels like that's a pretty solid prediction, but because of its specificity, it does go down a little bit. And that's why it's a plus 110 and not like a minus. It's better than 2-1 odds by 10 cents, but better than 2-1 odds nonetheless. But, you know, the Green Bay Packers are a Super Bowl contending team. The Vikings, you have to squint real hard to talk yourself into them being a Super Bowl winning team. I'm not going to do that. You can if you want. And then the Lions and Bears barely exist. So, like, it feels like real easy second place. The only way you don't get second, we talked about this on the NFC North preview, the Ultimate Pro Football Preview, by the way. If you haven't found it, it's Ultimate Pro Football Preview. It is a separate podcast feed, and you can listen to the whole NFC North. We did like a whole NFC North kind of special, and they did that for every division. It's really good stuff with all the Locked On hosts. And we kind of came up with like, okay, how does this not end up Packers, Vikings, Lions, Bears? Like, how is that not the order? Because we all agreed instantly that that would be the order. But how does it end up not that? And the only thing that made a lick of sense was if both the Vikings and Lions end up 7-10, let's say the Vikings have some injuries, the Lions do better than we think. It's like not that like I wouldn't pick it, but that's not that beyond the pale. And even then you would still need tiebreakers. Like the world where the Vikings don't finish specifically second feels good enough. I really like it at plus 110. There's other stuff you could do. Prop bets. I really like Justin Jefferson's over on receiving yards. 13.25 is insane. I like Adam Thielen over 7 touchdowns, even if he misses some games. He tends to get 2 touchdowns in a game. Like I don't think he needs a full season to get 7 touchdowns. And he had like 9 and 10 the last couple of seasons. So I really like those 2 overs. Those are the season long totals. For this game, the Vikings are 1-point home underdogs, so that essentially means that the betting market thinks that they are 4 points worse than the Packers on a neutral field. You get your 3 for home field advantage, and then the over-under is 47. Vikings money line plus 100. I really like Packers -1 here. I'm sorry. I mean, I said 31-20 Packers, right? Like, of course you're going to hear that from me. And you can hear my rationale for that on yesterday's show. I won't go too into that, but just, it's the same stuff I've been saying for months and months and months. New defense. Everybody's new to it. You get Aaron Rodgers right away. And you're just never going to be that good at it the first time. And that's okay. You know, this is your test drive. It's your maiden voyage. You're still going to be working out some kinks, I think. You might see some flags. You might see some discipline stuff. It's not a huge referendum on the Vikings. It's not a reason to panic. It's never going to be. It's just a game that, you know, it's the first one, and that's okay. We're gonna need a little patience here, all right? But even if you don't agree with me, I still feel like 1 point to the Packers is just not enough for how much hype that they have gotten in this offseason versus how much confusion there has been about the Vikings this offseason of like, are they actually going to be good or not? Like some people think they could be and some people don't, and that is debatable. Immediately sets them apart from the Packers where it just isn't. I think when it comes to like key matchups and stuff like, you know, Justin Jefferson versus Jair Alexander and all that stuff, it's a lot harder week 1 because I can't look at them yet. And I want to be able to look at them a little bit more closely and see if I can identify the weaknesses. And what I usually would like to do is kind of say, like, how would I scout them? If I were in the room, if I were in the advanced scouting department of the Vikings, what would I say about the Packers? It's like, well, they like to do this. This is their weakness and stuff like that. What I would say right now is they have an unhealthy offensive line. Even if David Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins, both of whom are very much trending toward being game time decisions. That would be my guess based on their injury news. But they are very much question marks on if they're going to play. But even if they do play, they're going to be playing through something. And that means that, like, I want to bull rush those guys. I want to get one-on-ones with them, and I want to get right into them as strong as I possibly can. And it also, depends on the nature of, like, which injury you're talking about. Maybe you want to go around or something. But I want to try to leverage that and really make those guys work way harder. I don't want, if you're coming into a game hurting, I don't want to give you an easy day. So that would be a game plan thing that I have, and the way that those fronts would be designed can be a concept for another day. But suffice it to say, a lot of these pressures and blitz packages and even 4-man rushes are designed to, like, get a certain person a one-on-one, or get a one-on-one with a certain offensive lineman. And I say target the hurt guys. And before anybody freaks out, I don't mean target them like in a dirty way. I mean, like, make them the targets, like, schematically. That is, I think, the way to do it. Get pressure on Aaron Rodgers and then hope you can hold up on the outside against, again, a hurt Alan Lazard who might not play, and then, like, Sammy Watkins and rookies. Hopefully you can hold up on the outside long enough where that pressure can get there. That's what I would hope to do. So rest of the show is going to be the bold predictions. This is a great tradition we had from last year that I'm carrying over. We're going to do it every Friday. Bold predictions, your craziest, spiciest takes. But first, all of those lines came from betonline.net. BetOnline is your one-stop shop for all things Grambling. You can do all kinds of stuff like that. You can also bet on, like, the WNBA finals are going on, MLB playoffs coming up. You can bet on tennis or golf or MMA fights or whatever. Just go to betonline.net. You can even bet in the middle of games. You can bet random prop bets and stuff. It is a great time. Just go to betonline.net where the game starts. Are you ready? Are you ready to get bold? Because it's about to get bold in here. Welcome to the bold prediction section of the Locked On Vikings podcast, a Friday tradition. Every Thursday, I will put out a call for bold predictions. Give me one. If you give me a whole bunch of predictions, I will never pick it. If you give me just a random stat line but make it big, oh, Justin Jefferson gets 300 yards, I will never pick it. That's not fun. If you just give me something weirdly specific, like, did the Ed Ingram will recover a fumble in the end zone that will win the game, that's not, I'm not going to pick that. I want creativity. I want it to be funny if it will happen. I want it to exist in that perfect line between plausible, don't tell me 8 touchdowns by one player, plausible but not probable, and most of all, I want you to have some fun with it, all right? So I picked a few that are my favorite, and we're going to go with them. There's no prize for this. We'll party, though, if you get it. Only one person has ever got it in the history of the whole thing, and we partied. And if you get it right, we'll party again. So the first one I picked came from Mossatron, who said that the Vikings will get a safety via holding being called in the end zone on Green Bay. A, that is hilarious. B, the Vikings have gotten safeties that way before. I believe they got one in the preseason that way last year. It is a very, very funny way to get a safety because a lot of times they're, like, backed up, and if there's a holding penalty, that probably means the pocket was good, right? Because the holding will help. And then, maybe the pocket was good and Aaron Rodgers gets a 25-yard completion and there's a flag in the end zone. It actually turns out 2 points of Vikings and they're punting. Great stuff. And I love that this is the optimistic way because this is something the Vikings have done a number of times. Can't remember a time where the Vikings were on the other end of this. They've gotten safeties. Can't remember them ever forcing a holding penalty for a safety. Such a pathetic way for it to go down, and I, for one, would love to see it. Omar says, Jonathan Bullard has himself a day, like clearly the best defender on the field Sunday. This is great because it's the last person you'd expect, right? Like he's a rotational player, so he probably won't even be on the field for, like, a lot of the game. Also, he might not even play. He's limited. So this is very spicy. Love it. I believe Omar has been in the bold predictions before. So Omar knows what he's doing here. And in terms of, like, how I'm defining this, we'll kind of figure it out. Usually, this is week 1. We haven't had one yet, but usually we'll go back over last week's and I'll kind of say, did they make it or not? So we're going to deal with it then. All right. If I go back and I'm like, yeah, Jonathan Bullard was the best player on the field, like that is a take that I could have if he is, and we'll play that one by ear, but I'm not going to say like he has to have the best like PFF grade or something. I'm not going to try to put some line on it. We will know it when we see it. Grill says, Kirk Cousins says the F-bomb again. This is great. Kirk Cousins is swearing again, but how much is he swearing? So this is what this needs to be. This needs to be a hot mic on the broadcast. We got to hear it. All right. I don't want to hear later that he said the F-bomb in the locker room. No, that does not count. This needs to be an F-bomb, hot mic by Kirk Cousins on the broadcast. Extra points if the announcers have to apologize for the language. And if that is the case, if we're starting to hear F-bombs out of Kirk Cousins on the field picked up by the mic, he's going for MVP. It's 5,000 yards and MVP. It's over. And the Vikings are winning the Super Bowl. Eric the Red says Greg Joseph wins the game by breaking the franchise record for longest field goal. Now, I forgot to look this up, but I'm pretty sure off the top of my head, it's 56. I know there's some people that can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure the record is 56. So it would be a 57-yard game-winning field goal. A lot of people said something about Greg Joseph breaking a record. This was the boldest one. That's also a thing. Because there's like 60 of these, and I picked 6. So you got to stand out. And so if you say the same prediction that somebody else says, but yours was the boldest, I'm going with that. As long as it's not like so super beyond the pale. Don't tell me Greg Joseph will make an 80-yard field goal, right? Zachary Hayes says that JJ catches, throws, and runs in a touchdown. I got a lot of different versions of this, but I love the triple threat here. Catches a touchdown, easy. I'm pretty sure that's probably like a minus 200 prop. Throws a touchdown, going to be a little rare, and runs one in, going to be a little rare, but all very possible. I am going to be keeping a keen eye on that mailbag question from Tuesday about who gets second place and everything on the Vikings. Justin Jefferson's second place in passing yards is absolutely in play. And so throwing touchdowns is also in play. You know, it'd be a fun little red zone concept. And hey, why not bust that out week 1 against your division rival that you're going to need this win against real bad? Finally, Reuben Frost says that CJ Ham silences the haters and outproduces all Packers skill positions with over 100 total yards. So, this is the other thing that I do on these bold predictions. Sometimes I will edit them for you if I think they need to be a little bolder or if I think they're a little too specific or I just don't need it. I don't need the 100 yards. If CJ Ham outproduces every Packers skill player, that's plenty insane, unbelievably funny. And I don't need it to be over 100 yards. If he gets 80 yards and no Packers skill player got over 80 yards, that's hilarious. I am giving this to you. So no, don't worry about being over 100. CJ Ham outproducing all Packers skill positions. My goodness. Could you imagine Aaron Jones being held to like 70 in this game and then CJ Ham gets like one breakaway play and suddenly he has like 80 scrimmage yards? That would be so funny. He will run routes though. They will have him run like in the pass, be in the passing concept, and not just as like a stupid check down. I think they're having these backs actually be like part of the progressions, and I'm really excited to see what they do with that. I'm so hyped for this game, you guys. We will be. I'll be with Sam Ekstrom after the game on Locked On Vikings YouTube. Locked On Minnesota Sports YouTube, and then it'll be up on the Locked On Vikings podcast feed after. But we'll do the postcast, 10, 15-ish minutes, just recapping what happened in the game. And then I will talk to you all on Monday morning about it. I'll see you all then. Make sure you check out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview. Please check out the history documentary. I'm pleading with you. All right. I put a lot of work into it, and I would love it if you check it out. I will see you all tomorrow, and as always, or Monday, and as always, Skull.